Hello, welcome back to Xraised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. My name is Myles, your host, and our episode today is about what almost everyone talks about, but very few truly understand: financial freedom. So, we invited once again our guest who doesn't just talk about success. He's lived it, lost some of it, rebuilt from it, and then transformed it into something much more meaningful. He's a board director, global investor, two-time entrepreneur, and executive leadership coach, helping high achievers realign their careers and wealth with what actually truly matters, their values. I'm happy to welcome back the founder and coach of Institute for Greatness and author of Breaking the Glass Ceiling, an insider memoir, the insightful Anthony Te. Hi, Anthony.
Hey, Miles.
It's great to see you. Thank you for being here, fresh from Auckland.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Amazing talk, I'm sure. And thank you for being here today, Anthony. We better jump right in. And I remember you've said before that financial freedom is not just about having money, it's about alignment with your values, which is a refreshing perspective, especially in a world that often equates freedom with the bank balance. So I'm curious, how do you personally define true financial freedom, Anthony?
Yeah, it's good you bring this up as the first question because everybody defines it differently. So, from my perspective, financial freedom, or to say to be truly free, is you need to first know your values because once you know your values, then you can develop habits that lead you to those values, and then you can seek alignment. So, having all these three things is vital. And when I say alignment, is you need to be aligned mentally, emotionally, physically, and intellectually.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't sound easy, but actually, it's a lot easier than people think. So if you just look around, there are a lot of people with lots of money, but are they truly free?
Mhm.
And a lot of these people, they just often spend money knowing that they don't need it, but need to justify why they're stuck in some kind of vicious cycle by spending more,
Uh-huh.
right? So it ends up being some kind of an addiction.
Mhm.
So they're on paper, it sounds like, oh, they're financially free because they have a lot, but they're mentally or emotionally not free.
Yeah.
So for somebody to be what I call intellectually free would be just to have the ability and skills to grow their wealth based on what you have without third party income.
Mhm.
So if I were to ask you, right, Miles, for example, would you rather have, say, $10 million just in a bank that it's not going to grow, so it's just going to keep depleting,
Mhm.
only goes down, or would you rather have, say, $6 million, but you know it'll grow or compound
Definitely.
over the time, right? Because you have the ability to grow that.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I think, yeah, so mentally it's very different. So for me, I prefer to have the lower amount and then let it grow.
Yeah, have the potential of making it bigger, of course.
Yeah, so that's more the intellectually free aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to sum everything up, for me, my definition of financial freedom changes over time, and it's normal because yeah, we're at different stages of life.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier in my life, I was just fixated on an amount
Okay.
because I was more naive, and it was just the easiest metric. Just like, oh, if as long as you get a good GPA, that means you're smart, right? That's how people, or like, oh, you're successful just because like, oh, you did well on certain subjects. So it's
Uh-huh.
very simple way of defining it, but I wasn't free.
Mm-hmm.
So what I also call this is I call this like the FU amount, right? Like the amount you give people the finger.
Uh-huh.
We joke about it when we're growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then, but then, sometimes if you just give people have the ability to give the people kind of the finger for good,
Uh-huh.
it's not just about. But then you're still unhappy because then sometimes you feel like, well, I'm still going to jump from one place to another. You just keep hopping around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think at the end of the day is for me is I kind of look at it is okay if you're a poker player, you know that if you don't like playing at this table, you can just walk away for
Mm-hmm.
good and not look for another table to play at.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because you're truly saying, telling yourself, I'm done. I can just walk away.
Right.
So it's like a job, right? It's like, I don't like this job. I could really just walk away and not work versus, oh, I'm just going to hop to another job because I need the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, at the end, it's to truly choose the work that you do and that you love, and then money comes next. Or even if money doesn't come, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's kind of part of the definition. And then the other part of it is like if you can't find the work that you love,
Mm-hmm.
then you have the ability to just wait it out until you find it. And it may never come. And that's fine, but you're not pressured by money to say, oh, I have to do this job or I have to work here because of money.
Mm-hmm.
So that need is sort of taken away. And so even without that paycheck coming in next month, mentally you have zero disturbance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not
Uh,
not necessarily a destination, but
yeah,
rather a
yeah,
state of alignment.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think if you can do that, then to me, that's already financially free.
Mm-hmm. That's so true that many people chase numbers but never stop to ask if those numbers mean anything to them personally. And, speaking of personal journeys, Anthony, looking back on your own life from immigrating and overcoming early challenges, as you've told me before, to building businesses across continents. Like recently, I read that you're adding the Middle East to your client portfolio. Congratulations, by the way. What experiences really shape your philosophy about money, work, and fulfillment?
Yeah, you brought up my book earlier, and then my journey because for people who have followed me for some time
Mhm.
and they read my book, Breaking the Glass Ceiling: Inside a Memoir. Yeah, a lot of it is really just framed from my childhood experiences. So and for most people, actually, the most important values that impact our financial well-being is actually framed early on in life.
Uh-huh.
But sadly, a lot of that's not taught in school. Well, that's one reason why I started the preschool. Actually,
Yeah,
in
I
my
remember.
preschool, we actually taught children the concept of money early on.
Yeah.
But for me, was yeah. So my parents, my grandparents had a huge impact on framing my values of money, work, and fulfillment early on.
Hmm.
Because so we were happy growing up, but they were not free, as in they're not financially free.
Hmm.
Because really, yeah, they still needed the money to make ends meet, right? But then, so for me, I was actually very privileged because I never had to go through that type of poverty or really that type of financial stress. But I was very lucky to know about it and appreciated the toils of the previous generations. So I think that's part one.
Hmm.
And so the other thing was, so growing up, every time I took lessons, so my parents did spend money on me taking different types of lessons. And they would always tell me, like, oh, lessons are so expensive. It costs
Yeah.
money. So don't waste time. So for
Uh-huh.
me, very early on, for me, it's like time is money. And
Mhm.
so I was very lucky that I knew that. So I was very focused every second. The moment I walk into a class or some kind of enrichment class, I just knew that I'm not going to waste money because it cost my parents money, right?
Mhm.
And so today, same thing I tell the kids. I said, stop screwing around during class. You can screw
Uh-huh.
around outside, but not during class. Because
Uh-huh.
every minute that you waste costs X dollars. So my kids are, oh, okay, thinking about it. So for me, is if you if you want to maximize time,
Mhm.
you need to have focus,
Right.
which means you need to be disciplined. So I think all these things tie together. So I'm very fortunate. I am a very focused and disciplined person in general,
Mhm.
especially when I need it. And then wasting time only means we're delaying our financial freedom. So a lot of it comes back to time,
Yeah.
right? And then the other thing is when you talk about your question was on work
Mhm.
was so for me, work has always been a journey to learn and train myself, but it just happens that I get paid to do that.
Uh-huh.
And versus before we came out to the workplace, up until college, I had to pay somebody to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so for working, I always believed, oh, I'm very happy to work because
Yeah.
every day someone's paying me to learn. That's what do you find that opportunity, right? It's great.
Right.
And then the last thing is when you talk about your question on fulfillment,
Yeah.
is that it's for me, it's a journey to get paid to learn, to grow, and create an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of that allows me to pursue life that is aligned with my values and purpose.
Wow. Okay.
And part of my values is freedom, as I've
Mm-hmm.
talked about before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
again, it goes back to alignment of many
mhm.
different things.
Yes, and that's a grounding reminder, Anthony. And that story of yours is a really great example. Many of us are conditioned to see money as the ultimate reward, when in reality, it's just often, just a tool, not actually the goal. And that brings me to something I know a lot of professionals struggle with. You can be earning well, maybe even leading teams, but still feel trapped. What do you think are the essential mindset shifts people need to break out of that cycle and start creating real freedom?
Yeah, well, it's natural to chase higher income. I think it's in our human nature that we're greedy.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but and then also then the question is when you chase the higher income, I think most people definitely care about that. It's a reflection of our value add. It's also a
Mhm.
validation. But then the issue is once we have it, we often want more of it. We want more and more validation.
Mhm.
So once it gets out of control, then yes, as I've talked about, it becomes greed and then it leads to other things, right? Like buying things and spending more money.
Mhm.
So on this is I think a lot of people is just that their expenses go up a lot. And then a lot of things that were needs became, or a lot of things that became wants ended up being needs. So for a lot of mid to senior level professionals, they want to spend more money to justify why they're busy at work or why they have to travel a lot for work, right? So they're giving up a lot of their free time for work, for money. And so like, oh, well, I need to buy a big house. Like, oh, I need a 6,000 square foot house and five nice cars and fly first class everywhere because I need to justify the fact that I'm busy working, 7 days a week.
Mhm.
But then the question is, are these things nice to have or are these things needs? Right. And so often then people end up justifying like, oh, I need these things now because like, oh, I need to build a network with people. I have to present myself a certain way.
Mhm.
Or like, oh, it's a
Mindset.
lot. Yeah, it goes back to the mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's like a long term investment for
Mhm.
building a network.
Yeah.
But then I always challenge them. I said, well, if you don't really need it, well, why don't you just take that money that you spend on all these nice things and then you can just buy stocks? But then the problem is you can't flaunt it. People don't see it, right? Because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, is a lot of these things that you do is for the experience and also for you to show people that I have a
Sure.
lot,
Mhm.
right? But if you buy stocks, you just kind of put it aside. Nobody sees it.
Yes.
So it gives you a different type of validation, right? Because
Mhm.
you don't really have the external validation if you don't, if you don't spend it on certain things or certain experiences.
Yeah.
Um, so I always just ask people. I said, ask yourself to define and visualize what a dream life means to you, and then when you can achieve that.
Yeah.
So then afterwards, you can clearly write it out or just draw a collage of what that looks like. So some of the key questions would be like, what does money mean to you? How does money serve you?
Mhm.
Because often we end up serving money.
Mhm.
And then another question would be, is what you're doing today going to get you there?
Mhm.
And the answer is, if not, what actions can you change today to help you get there?
Great question.
So, yeah, so these are the key. I mean, there could be a lot of other questions, but I just thought these are the more
Yeah.
powerful questions to ask up front. And then you
Mhm.
think about it, and then you write it out, you draw it out, whatever that is, right? As you answer these questions.
Yeah. And that's very valuable. I think I think that hits home for so many people, especially those who assume more income automatically equals more independence. Well, spoiler, it doesn't. And with so much noise out there about wealth and success, what are some of the biggest misconceptions you see around financial freedom, Anthony, particularly among high achievers?
Yeah, first thing I notice is that you need a lot of money to be financially free, which it is a common misconception. But again, the question is, how do you define a lot, right? I mean, you
Uh-huh.
definitely
What
needs
extent?
a certain threshold, but
Mm.
that threshold often I feel that is overestimated. And part of it's also because it goes back to the earlier question, which is if you're not intellectually free, which means you're able to compound what you have, then yes, I feel like you that threshold needs to be higher because it only goes depletes or goes down right from there onwards because you cannot invest to grow your money. So that's the first point. Second point is that related to the first point is you need to have that big number to be satisfied in all aspects of life.
Mhm.
But honestly, I feel a lot of that really is the emotional and ego because you feel that, oh, well, if I compare to my peers, I need to have X to feel free.
Uh-huh.
But again, it's from a practicality perspective, it's not true. So a lot of it, it's as it goes back to the mental and emotional aspect. You often need to have a high paying job, which look, having a high paying job helps you achieve financial freedom sooner. I mean, that's just a fact, right? Because money compounds faster with a higher base.
Uh-huh.
But then there are still many ways that you can still be free without that high income. And then on the final point is you need to quit your job and pursue fire, which is financially independent, retired early. And you and I talked about this in a previous episode.
Mhm.
That a lot of people think, oh, well, to be financially free means I don't work anymore. But I don't think that is true because if we look around, so many successful and wealthy people that have enough money to spend for multi generations, they're still waking up excited every day doing what they're about to do.
Mhm.
It's more it's similar to okay, well, you have a freedom to do something, but it doesn't mean that you have to. You just have the right to exercise it. For example, freedom of religion. You don't have to be uh, pursuing a religion to prove that oh I'm exercising this right. But if you, I mean, some people are just non-religious, which is fine. But when you choose to exercise that right, you have the ability to do so.
Right.
So here is being financially free is you can still work and make money, but if you choose not to tomorrow, you can do that anytime,
Mm.
right? So to me, I think yeah, that's the last point about a misconception.
Yeah. And that's spot on, Anthony. It's ironic how some of the most accomplished people can be the least free. Maybe that's a term. Always chasing the next win instead of defining what's enough looks like for them. So, before we wrap this up, let's talk action. For anyone listening right now who's successful on paper but not feeling fulfilled, what's the first step they should take to begin their own journey toward financial freedom?
Yeah, well, always goes back to alignment, which is how we started this episode, right? I think one of the first thing to think about is financial freedom is a lifelong journey. It's not a just think about it as oh the end goal, but rather along the way this journey there will be different checkpoints,
Uh-huh.
and so once you're free, you need to sustain it and yeah perpetuate that. I think that's one thing people kind of just don't think about. It's like, oh, I'm always looking for that number, that end
Yeah.
goal, and done, right? So that's what number one. That's a journey. The second thing is you really have to define what financial freedom is to yourself, and we
Mm.
talked about that early on how I defined it, what some of the exercises you can do, because everyone's definition is different.
Different. Mhm.
Right? So why is this checkpoint along the journey important for you? and how does it feel when you hit or encounter that checkpoint. Okay. And then also, what are the actions that allow you to kind of make the most of this journey, and what is detracting or deterring you from reaching this checkpoint. So those are the habits either you want to amplify more of, the more positive ones, and the ones that's taking away from you, you want to eradicate those. And then another point, really just the last more practical point, is it really comes down to a couple key numbers. So if you think about two numbers, it's revenue and expenses. It's really running. It's kind of like running a company. It's funny how when you ask a lot of people that have some kind of financial sense, and then you tell them like, "Oh, this company is running on negative cash flow or negative income. It's a bad business, not sustainable." But then they can't apply it to their daily lives. So for a human, it's the same thing. If you have more expenses than revenue and no negative cash flow, it's just not sustainable.
Of course, yeah.
So they get it for business, but somehow not for themselves, because you become a lot more emotional. And we talked about not being free in many other aspects of life, right? So here is, as an individual or in general, just I believe that you have a lot more control over your expenses than revenue in general up to a certain point, because you can always decide what's needs versus wants, what's good to have. So that's one follow-up exercise is, after calculate the two numbers, revenue and expense, is it positive or negative? And then you think about the expenses, what's in these three buckets: need, wants, good to have. And it should be so simple that you can explain it to a 10-year-old and
Yeah,
they can understand that.
easy.
Yeah, because a lot of us, we end up justifying everything as needs once we get to a certain age, right? Oh, I have to spend money on this. I have to do this. I have to do all that, right? It's a need. So a 10-year-old person should be able to understand why it's a need versus want. And then a lot of that needs to be just being self-aware of what these are. Like, is this really a need, or is this actually a want?
Yeah.
And it's okay to get a support team, because again, it's a journey. So you don't have to go it alone. Get people to help you with it, right? So that's more on the expense side. How do you control the expenses? And then on the income side, the revenue side is just also classify as what's active, passive, or recurring. And we can spend other episodes talking about the different types of income and how to generate it. But I think this is a very, very high level exercise that anybody can do at home on a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
as long as you have some kind of basic arithmetic knowledge.
Well, beautifully said, Anthony. I actually wanted to hear more, but we have more episode. Good thing, and I think a lot of people will find comfort in that. The checkpoints along the journey, as you've said, the real definition of financial freedom. Knowing the path to freedom doesn't have to start with a spreadsheet, but with more of self-awareness. You've given us framework to think about money differently and a way to rethink what success really means. It's a pleasure.
No, not at all. Thanks for having me here again.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm pretty sure this episode made you reflect on your own definition of success. And that's a sign you're already one step closer to your own version of freedom. So, for those of you who'd like to dig deeper into Anthony's work, or maybe even start their own transformation journey, you can visit ifgreatness.com, check the link below, and connect with him directly on LinkedIn. Thank you for tuning in and for inspiring us to provide more insightful episodes like this one with Anthony. Until next time, this has been your host, Myles. Stay focused and inspired with Xraised.